Hi, it's Jeff Murrow, and I want to welcome you to True Texas History. Today I'm going to be talking about the 1842 Mexican raid of San Antonio. This is one that often doesn't get talked about. It's kind of embarrassing in some ways, depending on who you talk to. But in 1842, Santa Anna is once again in power in Mexico, and he decides he wants to run another raid into Texas. Because even though, with the Treaty of Velasco, Texas was supposedly given independence by Mexico, Mexico did not want to honor that agreement. And, when you send a raid, you send your forces in, it's a way of saying, you don't have as much independence as you think you do. And so for this raid, they took off in September, and Santa Anna chose Adrian Woll. Now, Adrian Woll was a Belgian who was serving in the Mexican army. Now, Adrian Woll, he had been around for quite a while. In fact, he was with Henry Perry's escapades down there at Goliad. Now, Henry Perry, I haven't talked about him a whole lot, but he was running around with a lot of the pirates, that were doing things in Texas, and there were a lot of escapades with those in setting the stage for Mexico to come to power and declare independence from Spain. But Adrian Woll had been a part of that, so he had been part of this whole Mexican Revolution and power to the people in Mexico type of thing. And there's some speculation in some circles that he was a former disgruntled officer in Napoleon's army. I have yet to do the research there to find that out, but I do know that he does have some connections with Napoleon's forces. But to make a long story short, Adrian Woll and his men, he runs a raid, literally follows the 1836 route that Santa Anna took to San Antonio. And one of the surprising things with this raid is that the people of San Antonio report saying, isn't that Juan Seguin with them? Well, yes, it was. What the residents didn't know is that good old Juan had been involved in a secret mission down in Mexico City, had been found out, and so he was taken along by Adrian Woll, almost like a hostage in the situation. In fact, when Adrian Woll got to San Antonio, the courts were in session, and we had a couple of Texas congressmen there, and he took them hostage as well. Had President Houston furious. He was fit to be tied over this one. I talked about his temper the other day, and his temper was directed at Santa Anna in this case. And they called up, some volunteers to go ahead and do something with the Mexicans, and one of those involved was Jack Hayes. But they called him up, and the Texas volunteers were trying to lure the Mexicans out of San Antonio and get them in the field, and they succeeded in doing so. But in one of the engagements, a group of men from Fayette County were involved in some heavy fighting, led by a fellow by the name of Dawson's, and this is what led to the Dawson Massacre, where these men had lost a lot of men in the combat. They decided they wanted to go ahead and surrender to the Mexican forces. The Mexican forces refused to honor their surrender, and they just continued firing and killed just about everybody there. And that just infuriated the Texans even more and led to further unrest. And this is a tragic chapter, both for Fayette County and for the early Texas government. Because it's, like getting a black eye when you can't even keep foreign nations out of your own country. And so President Houston took this personally and mounted a campaign against Mexico to pay them back for what happened. Because this was international relations back at that time. Somebody comes at you, does some damage to your country, you go and pay them back, and that's what was going on. And with today being September the 11th, I figured this would be a good time to go ahead and deal with the attack on San Antonio, because that occurred on September the 11th, 1842. Hope you enjoyed it today, and I'll fill you in with more about the interaction of all these people, Henry Perry and Jack Hayes and some of these others, because Texas history is full of these intertwining stories of the various individuals. I'm glad you tuned in. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please leave them below, and you can find out more in the book Texans Always Move Them. So until next time, this is Jeff Murrah. Vaya con Dios. Goodbye.